This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with winemaker and founder of the Winery of Good Hope, Mr. Alex Dale. How are you today, sir?
Jaded.
Jaded.
Having too much fun.
I understand. Was it a late night for you last night?
Very early morning, actually.
I see.
I got to bed at 3.
I see. So we're here at the mega tasting. This is Cape Wine's European leg. And how has it been for you so far?
Humming. Really busy.
Yes.
High caliber visitor.
Good.
Except for the Canadians, of course.
Right, of course. So tell me a little bit about what you do down in South Africa, how you became involved in the world of wine down there, and generally what you do at the Winery of Good Hope.
Well, I'm fourth generation in the family, so I couldn't have avoided it if I tried. We're a Chenin Blanc specialist and Pinot Noir. So Chenin Blanc's pretty synonymous with South Africa, but we're very focused on premium Chenin Blanc, trying to lift the notoriety of the grape. We've got amazing old bush vines, 30, 40, 50-year-old bush vines on the mountains, so we can make a really unique style that's not really found anywhere else in the world. Everybody makes Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay and what have you, but Chenin Blanc has got a unique place in South Africa, so that's really the backbone of our business. And then Pinot Noir, because I'm a Pinot junkie. I grew up in Burgundy, I spent 11 years in Burgundy, and so when I moved to South Africa I always wanted to make Pinot. Didn't believe that we would ever make good Pinot, to be honest, and beginning to surprise myself a little bit. We make Pinot up in the mountains where it's much cooler, very small production, and it's really starting to show well.
Why do you feel that Chenin Blanc has been so maligned over the years, particularly Chenin Blanc from South Africa?
It's like anything you take for granted or you don't respect, you get what you deserve, and it was the working horse, the bulk jug wine varietal and distillation varietal. So 70% of all wine in South Africa was distilled into brandy or other spirits, and so people never really took it seriously. So I think it took either the young generation or outsiders to look at Chenin with a completely different perspective and respect it for what it is, which is a noble varietal.
What typifies a quality South African Chenin Blanc for you?
I think there are emerging styles. I think there's a sort of a big ripe, oaky, sweeter. I call that a trophy style, which is getting a lot of plaudits, and a lot of people seem to be enjoying that a lot. We've gone totally the other direction. We're not making winemaker-driven wines, we're making site-driven wines. So the sites that we enjoy are areas which are slightly cooler, more minerality, more restraint, higher acidity, more freshness, and wines that you can keep for 10 years comfortably. And for me, that's a more geological and geographically faithful style to our region, as opposed to making international style wine, and I think that's where South Africa can really make a difference. Some citrus flavors and lime, but with great crisp acidity and depth and ageability.
Now, you were saying old vines. Your oldest vines are around about 50 years old, are there?
Yeah, they're just getting there now. They're sort of late to mid 40s, late 40s.
And what kind of yields are you getting off those older vines?
Bugger all, which is why it's so good. We don't irrigate them, and we just let them come up with their own production. They find their own balance. They've done 40, 50 summers. They're used to the heat. You can't phase them. It's interesting, if you look at the irrigated vines, which are on the neighbouring farm, in the heat of the summer, even the irrigated ones, the leaves are going yellow, whereas these glorious old bush vines that we don't irrigate, they're thriving, they're green, because they've got root systems which go 20, 30 feet into the rock, and they find water. So they're very hardy, robust vines, but the fruit is limited in production by virtue of that, and just very pristine fruit, and it's got a huge amount of character, and that's what we love.
What can you tell me about Pinot Noir from South Africa? Because Pinot Noir, and it's not usually a word that I relate to South Africa whenever I think about South African wines. And it's only over the last couple of days I've actually been tasting some really interesting Pinot Noir. Where are these wines coming from? Why have the Pinot Noirs I've tasted from South Africa in the past been so poor? And there seems to be almost like a revival of Pinot Noir.
Well, first of all, Pinot Noir doesn't even constitute 1% of the national vineyard, so it's statistically it's a non-entity.
Right, I see.
But what used to be grown as Pinot Noir was Swiss clones and Champagne clones, which are for bubbly. So those brave fools who started making red wines from those in the early days we're destined never to make great Pinot. Whereas there's a new generation of wine producers that's really come to the fore in the last sort of 15 years, and they're Pinot idiots like me. We tend to be unreasonable in our requirements and ambitions for Pinot, and so we've been looking for sites which are off the beaten path to a large extent, cooler vineyards up in the mountains where it's difficult, but the reward, obviously the risk-reward factor is far more heightened, and you're getting Pinots now which I think are starting to compete on the world stage, but of course young vines, so I think we've got a lot of exciting days ahead of us. And the other thing is our selection of material, of vineyards, is just improving all the time. So whereas before, as I said, we had the Swiss and the Champagne clones, now we've got the Dijon Burgundy clones, and the result has transformed our potential.
Fantastic. Now, one last question for you here, Alex. What does good food mean to you?
Good food? Crikey. Is this a short interview or is this
It's a short one.
As with wine, I like foods that are balanced. I don't like the extremes. I like all sorts of different cultures, and I think a lot of it's depending on my mood. But most of what I eat is dictated with what I'm drinking. So if I go to a restaurant, I always look at the wine list first, and then I decide, depending on that wine list, what they've got on the menu would suit it. So
I do the same. It's all to do with priorities there.
Yeah. So it's a difficult question to answer succinctly, but I like simple foods. I like natural foods. I don't like fancy stuff, but I'm just pretty ordinary.
Do you cook yourself?
I do. Yeah. I don't like washing up, so luckily my girlfriend, I'm very sexist in that manner and unashamedly. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to cooking, so I eat out a lot.
I see.
But in South Africa we got amazing restaurants, incredible ingredients. If you like game,
oh yes,
we've got the most incredible array of game. We've got two oceans, we've got amazing different types of seafood, and a lot of that goes so well with Chenin. It's so versatile.
Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today at Good Food Revolution. Really appreciate your time.
Cheers, Jamie.
Cheers.